Hello everybody, James here, Storytime with Dutch, episode 102. The pink-hatted neon dynamic dude, Dutch Mantell right there, is going strong as always. And before we get into the main meat of the podcast, which, in fact, actually, before we do the plugs, I woke up this morning, Dutch, and I was like, man, there's not really that much news going on. And then I checked Twitter, which I don't do very often, and you were making the news. With Ric Flair somehow, but we will talk about that in a minute.
Oh yeah,
which is always a load of fun.
And that just popped out of the blue, so we'll address that just a little bit later.
Oh, we certainly will. Before we do that, we're going to tell you a few things. Pro Wrestling Tees, please go to Pro Wrestling Tees. Links are in the description. We've got several t-shirts out. Please buy them if you want to support the show. Dutch Mantell has books, of course. Storytime. The World According to Dutch and Tales from a Dirt Road. You can get signed from Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com. He also has diplomas and hats and all that kit and caboodle. And also, we are on Facebook as well. You pointed towards the pink hat. That's not a... Is that a University of Dutch?
Hang on. Let me take this off. See there?
It is.
But that's the leather version.
Mm.
I only have two of these.
Well, if you want to make it 1 or 0, if you want it signed, you go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com. Everything has a price. Every hat has a price, I'm sure. So if you want to make an offer. And one more thing as well that I encourage you all to do is go on Facebook, Storytime with Dutch Mantell official Facebook. The links are in the description as well. So before we get to the whole Ric Flair thing,
okay, what's on the Facebook page? I haven't seen it.
We have videos that are also on the YouTube channel. We have YouTube exclusive videos. We post the occasional match with Dutch Mantell. It's a Dutch Mantell haven.
Wow, I should like it there then.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's basically a shrine to you.
And how do you find it on Facebook?
There is. You just put Storytime with Dutch Mantell Facebook. I'm sure you'll find it there in your preferred search engine, or you can just click on the link in the description as well. Before we get onto the whole Ric Flair thing, you were sent this. I think I was sent this a couple of times, and wrestler. Oh damn, it's gone. Stupid thing. Anyway, a wrestler called formerly Kazani, now Sin Bodhi, does these LJN style WWF 80s dolls, and he's made one of you.
Oh, he's great. And he's made one. Now he's went back and made another one. And this was the full poncho, and the only thing that was a little bit off on it, the hat is like a traditional Western hat. It curves up here on the sides, but my hat was always like a flat hat. So I told him about it. Said he would fix it.
Oh, really?
But he's very, very talented, because these guys make these figures, and they're very good at it. So I couldn't make a figure. I don't even know how they do it. I guess they get a little cast. They cast it. I don't know. What's it made out of?
I don't
Plastic?
know. Well, I think it might be like a rubbery kind of thing. Because if it's like LJN's old WWF 80s ones, they're sort of a bit squishy, a tiny bit, aren't they?
Okay, before we go any farther, I would like to announce today, and this should have been your job, by the way, but I handled it.
Okay.
I have hired us a certified legal representative to protect us from claims of whatever. So if we get in trouble, we now have a certified attorney, Mr. Adam Burbrower. So you've heard of Stephen P. New?
Yeah. Do we have to come up with a song with the new guy?
Do we have to what? Come up with a song?
Yeah, I think there's a Stephen P. New song out there. Do we have to come up with a song with the new guy?
Well, I don't know. This I saw new to me, but I spoke with him this morning, and I said, "Well, it's not completely set yet. I have to talk to my friend James, and looks like you're agreeing to it." Mm. But anyway, he's from somewhere in New York State, and very, very good attorney. So, and another thing I'd like to announce: I'm working on my fourth book. My third book. And I don't really have a name for it, but I'll come up with something catchy.
When was the last time you wrote something for it? Because you've been on and off with this book for ages.
Oh, 10 years. Well, see, when I started selling my books, the two that I had, done, and I wrote those two books together in about, I don't know, 3 months' time. I started from scratch and filled out every story, every chapter. And if you add all the time in that I spent doing it, it totals up to about 3 months. And I have it produced on Amazon. Do you have a book, James?
Yes, I have two. Thank you very much for.
Oh, you do have two books.
Yes.
Where did you have those done?
Oh, same. I did it through Amazon. There used to be something called Creator Space, but that was then usurped by Amazon's KDP thing.
Yeah, Create Space went with the death of a dog.
Yeah.
So, but if anybody wants to write a book, I don't care if it's any good or not. Doesn't matter. If you get Amazon to accept it, from the time you accept it, they accept it. You know when they can print the first copy?
Pretty much immediately.
Yeah, about 30 minutes or an hour. They just subcontract it out to one of their printers, and it's ready to go. if they sign off on it,
it's good as well because it's printed.
What is the name of our attorney?
Adam something Bauer.
Burr. Birrower.
Yeah, you only steamed into this like a minute before we started recording. I didn't have time to write his name down or remind myself.
Oh, I just got off Messenger with him, or maybe it was email. But very good attorney. So
there you go. Well, he's got a plug.
Yep, he did.
There you go. I don't have to provide a link or anything, do I?
Do you have a link? Not yet.
No. Okay. Well, I'll figure something out. But apparently we've got a story time with Dutch's official attorney is now going on there as well. Well, do you know what? Maybe for defamation. Defamation is saying something that's not true. But on last week's episode of Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 101, what did you say about Ric Flair specifically, do you remember? So this was about the last match and the heart attack and him wanting to be dying in the ring, essentially.
Yeah. Well, we watched the video of him in the bar in Gainesville, Florida, where he took his family and friends after a graduation ceremony for somebody. And he got in there, and I guess he got cut off from buying any more beer or booze. And the reason he got cut off, he didn't get thrown out. He got cut off. And that's even worse than getting thrown out. So he pitches a bitch up there at the, at the cashier where you pay for your stuff. And he's talking to the owner and threatening to take the owner outside and to punch the owner out. And he just Ric Flair. So, but what I liked about it is there was one guy listening to him, and finally, close to the end of it, he wanted the manager to go out, and the guy said, "Hey, I'll go out there." And Flair said, "What'd you say?" He said,
he said about 4 times. He said, "What do you say? What did you say to me?" Because he couldn't actually think of anything to follow up with.
And like he said, "What do you say?" And then he turned his attention. He didn't want to go outside. No. Listen, the toughest guy in wrestling, damn sure is not Ric Flair. To be honest, I've never heard of Ric Flair even being in a fight with anybody. So I don't know. It's crazy. But anyway, the thing on X surprised the hell out of me. Because all we got to do is mention his name, and he's so temperamental, or his social media guy is so temperamental.
Well, you've got a theory that he's not tweeting himself.
Who? Rick?
Yeah.
Hell no. I doubt if he could even use a cell phone to dial a number, to punch a number in. And see, the thing about that tweet is every letter is capitalized. Every word, first letter is capitalized. Now that takes a little bit of time. I don't think Rick, I don't know how he is about, doing this, but I don't think he would be that good. So this got to be a social media guy, and they must be looking for a few more views because reviews kind of dropped off. So he wants somebody to argue with and bitch about. So, but yeah, he said he wanted to, and everybody knows this. He wants to die in the ring.
Well, let me give you the full quote.
Yeah, he actually agreed with me.
Well, that's the weird thing. It's a weird quote. So, Dutch, I'm so happy to admit that I agree with every comment you made about me. I mean, didn't you I think you called him, quote, a piece of crap at one point in this, so apparently he agrees. I was lucky to not die of a heart attack in the ring during my last match. But you're right, I do want to die in the limelight. I've been in it since I was 15 years old. I'm 75 years old now, still in the limelight and still the main event. Jessel Popat, MD, was the doctor who diagnosed me with a heart attack. Most credible heart surgeon in Tampa, FYI, is a bitch being the star. I'm not quite sure. What's he quite getting at there?
I don't know. I guess he was just reaffirming that he wants to go out because I said, I think he wants to actually die in the ring because people thought he had died in the ring in his last match. Undertaker was there. A few more people were there, and they all thought, hey, Rick is gone. He said he's had a heart attack, and and I heard even Jeff Jarrett told me they thought he had a heart attack. So I said, well, he didn't say nothing about this when we was going over the match. But anyway, he has confirmed that he wants to actually die in the ring. So you have my tweet that I sent him back?
I do. I'll get to it in a minute. I want to re-quote here because I think it's a bit of a scary thing to actually admit in public. But you're right. I do want to die in the limelight. I mean, what's his kids going to think about a sort of claim like that?
Rick don't think of kids. He don't think of anybody else. You've heard of a narcissist?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to describe the meaning of it. Just put a picture of Ric Flair on the wall, and that's a narcissist. Because everything to him, he's first in everything. But see, he used to be so picky about his matches and how were they and was this and because he was really worried about having good matches. And he always did have good matches because he should have good matches. He was with some of the best talent in the world. I'm not saying he's not a great talent. He is. He is a great talent. But he was with other great talent. Because you don't get a shot at the world's heavyweight champion if you're just a so-so guy. You don't get it. And he would take some guys that really couldn't wrestle that well and get a hell of a match out of them. But what happened to Flair, I think, and I've said this before, you see one Flair match, you've seen them all. Because now he takes that bump over the top rope, the upside down thing in the turnbuckle, then the slam off the top, then the press slam. I mean, how many times have I seen that? So it doesn't surprise me. But for him to actually admit that he does want to die in the ring, that doesn't surprise me. But hey, he told the truth.
Well, exactly. He doesn't say die in the ring, but die in the limelight. I mean, I was thinking, taking that quote and then the whole pizzeria argument thing, someone filmed and then it made the news. In Ric Flair's mind, regardless of how he acted or anybody else wronged him or he wronged anybody else, as long as the focus is on him, does he think that whole video pizza thing was a good thing? He's in the limelight, therefore it's a good thing regardless of how he's acting.
Oh, he don't give a crap. He don't. He liked it. I'm sure he liked it because He's the subject of the whole little sketch, the whole little, little video they had. Now I would feel really stupid if if they'd worked us and we're buying into it, but no, I don't think Flair could act that well. But I do think, like I said, I think he would be happy to ride off into the sunset if he joined the way up yonder while he was in the ring.
So your response on Twitter, I think, was it the same day?
No, I was nice. Yes. It was the day after, I think. Yeah.
Rick.
Because people started contacting me and said, Flair's after you again.
Oh, says Rick, glad you agree with me. But if you want to die in a ring, then so be it. Free will, free country, so you'll be assured that you'll die the star, although in many fans' eyes, a very stupid one. Thanks for the pub. Stay out of pizza joints. More on the podcast. And then you've tagged me in it, kindly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, he can do what he wants to do. Somebody suggested this morning, said, why don't you and Rick have a last match together? And I said, I don't know. Well, I didn't say I don't know. I just said no. I would not even attempt to have a last match. My last match is years ago, and let it stay there. I have a hard time getting in a ring now. But we'll see what happens. I want to see what his next response is going to be.
If you ever heard of a last man standing match, maybe this could be a first man standing match. Like first one to get out of the chair.
Hey, that is not funny. That is not funny. Yeah, the first man standing. So good. Almost made it, Rick. Hey, that's a good idea. Hey. First man standing.
60-minute Broadway, then he can do a return match.
Yeah, and we just sit there, and we have a little TV there in case when we get all blown up trying to get up, we just turn in, we turn on Supermax or something and watch something.
Someone in the comments, when you posted that, I was just leafing through the comments, and it's weird, like everyone in your comments supports you. Half the people in Ric Flair's comments support you, or maybe even the majority. So someone in your comments, I didn't write down the name of the person who wrote it, but they mentioned a comedian called Tommy Cooper. I know he was in the States at one point. He's the guy with the Fairs, I can't even remember what his catchphrase was. That was it. This is just like that. Anyway, he's famous for, in this country, dying on stage, live on TV. He just had a heart attack, dropped dead. It was something like Sunday at the Palladium or something like 84. I've not actually researched this at all. This off the top of my head. And the thing is, he was a very, very famous person in this country for decades. Yet the first thing you think about Tommy Cooper is he died on stage. So I'm wondering, reflecting back on Ric Flair here, if he did, let's say, stupidly decide to do like another match or something, his legacy would be Ric Flair died wrestling, died in a ring, and then everything else would sort of be like a bullet point afterwards. And that's not really the legacy surely he wants, is it?
But I would think it would say he died in the ring, which is what he wanted to happen.
It's like died with your boots on kind of thing.
Well, but anyway, Rick, I love you, brother. Just keep my, well, not really. Keep my name out of your mouth.
No, keep it in. It's good for the podcast.
Oh, it is? Oh, well, yeah. Rick, you no good bastard. Hey, I got an attorney now. I'll sue you.
Yeah.
What could I sue him for?
Just
we'll come up with something, could we?
I don't know. I mean, you're so like tweeting, sort of agreeing with each other.
Impersonating a wrestler. That's what he's doing now.
Impersonating Ric Flair. I've got a couple more Ric Flair follow-up questions here that I'm interested in. So something.
Let me hear them.
Something about Ric Flair is, at least these days, I don't know. Back in the day,
how's that mustache?
Pretty good, I'd say. I quite like the pink hat with it.
Very symmetrical.
Yes.
When you say.
Oh, yes, that is the compliment of compliments to a mustache's prominent as yours. Yeah. Was Ric Flair always bad at taking criticism? Was he always thin-skinned? Was he always... Even back in the day, apparently, I've heard stories about Ric Flair being terribly insecure. You alluded to it beforehand. He was the person more than anyone else who would ask people's opinions. Did you think that was a good match? Did you think I was okay? Considering that Ric Flair was, one of the best, or in some eyes, the best to do it, especially at the time. Was he always insecure?
No, I've just been told that. He never asked me. Even when I had a match with him, a couple matches with him, he never asked me, was the match okay? But it was a good match. But
did you two ever have an official falling out over something, or was it just over the years? I mean, because I know you fell out with him over like David Flair, and he didn't turn up when he said he would, and
but that's on my end. He didn't give a crap, and I understand his concern about David as his son. Yeah, I got that.
We were all concerned about David.
Oh yeah, but I don't fault him for that. He just wanted to take care of his son, and he tried to get him in other promotions, and nobody would take him. So I think David had the wrong idea about the wrestling business because he saw his dad go to these sold out arenas and make all this big money. Well, when he had to start wrestling, he'd go down and there'd be like 200 people in the audience, 150 people, and he'd get his check, and it'd hardly be anything for the match. So he was disillusioned about the wrestling business about probably the first weekend.
Well, in WCW, he was paid very handsomely, so going to the Indies or Puerto Rico or whatever would have been a...
Well, but he wasn't in WCW long, was he?
He was in there from 99. He was in there for at least 18 months.
Okay.
We're going to move on, and another name that keeps cropping up here, there, and everywhere in these podcasts and in the news, although this one's a bit more surprising, is Tammy Sytch. Fitch. SE Scoops, this is the write-up from. Despite being incarcerated, Sytch recently spoke with TMZ and shared concerning news about her health. The issue began with Sytch noticing a swelling in her left leg, which ranged from the top of her knee to her toes. Sytch brought the issue to officials at the prison, who reportedly did not treat her. Sytch could, quote, barely walk on my leg. As of last week, and after testing, was diagnosed with a blood clot that requires blood thinners. Getting that medication into her body has been an ordeal, however, and she's now fearing she'll die because of the situation. Quote from Tammy, all that's been going through my mind for the past 3 weeks is, oh my God, I'm going to follow in my ex-husband's footsteps. She didn't marry Chris, did she? Or did she?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And die of a blood clot just like he did because I can't get medical treatment in prison. That's sort of two completely separate situations there. But what's going on with Tammy then? And more specifically, how is it so easy for her to get an interview with TMZ even though she's in a fairly high security prison, I imagine, for 17 years?
Well, I don't know what their policy is on the media trying to talk to you. They probably had to go through channels to get an interview with her, and I guess they granted it. But now after they read that article where she slams them about not treating her, her little access to her little informants outside may come to a halt. She's in prison, and they can about do what they want to do. I used to like Tammy. And if she hadn't killed the guy, and if she hadn't been doing all the stuff she did over the years, I guess I would still feel like she was my friend or we were friends. But I can't say that because I have no sympathy for her whatsoever. Here's a guy sitting at a red light, and he could have been Ric Flair. He was 75 years old, and she just runs up and hits him and kills him. And she was so drunk, didn't know where she was. If you can't see a car sitting at a red light and you can see the red light in front of the car, she don't need to be out driving. This is not the first time. But I'm glad that the state of Florida finally said, hey, no more. Because what they're doing by taking her and putting her in prison is oh, they can sentence her and give her, you know, time served and all this kind of stuff and let her back out. But guess what she's going to be doing when she gets out? She's going to be driving. So the only way to protect people is to put her in a position to where she can't get behind the wheel of a car. See, we always hear that prison is for punishment or for this. No, prison is to protect the rest of us from them that don't give a crap about killing you. And because they know that the legal system is not going to do much, so they don't care. So they put her in. Now she can't go out and run over anybody with a car. And what kind of disease or what kind of a malady does she have? Or
blood clot, she's claiming.
A blood clot.
Mm-hmm. Is it interesting that Tammy is still publicly playing a victim after all this?
She's a heel. The heels are always victims. Ric Flair was always the victim too. But she's playing the victim because this place here won't treat her, won't forget what she's done, but she's going to die in prison like her, did she call who was she married to, or her boyfriend?
Well,
what was his name?
Chris Candido. So,
Candido.
Yeah, he was ill-advisedly flying very soon after surgery, I believe, to his leg. And that's what caused an issue.
She probably told him to fly.
Yeah.
Who knows what happened there? You know, I've talked to Chris's brother, and he says Tammy, he wouldn't trust her as far as he could see her. Yeah. And he has he should have hard feelings toward her because she screwed Chris up and acted like she had to embarrass him. You know, you've heard stories.
Oh, yeah.
She would go and Chris would be over there, and then she and another guy would take off and go down the hallway or go somewhere, and they would do whatever they would do, and they'd come back. And everybody knew it. I mean, nobody said anything about it because it was just common knowledge. But it was embarrassing, really, for young Chris, for her to do it. And then, of course, she will deny doing anything like that, of course.
She's a heel, of course.
Yeah, and she's a victim. So because she didn't do it, and whoever started that is just a liar. But, and I've heard, they were in Puerto Rico, and I heard stories when I went there from people on the street who have no reason to lie, and they say, "Oh, the girl there's Tammy. Oh yeah, oh crazy." That she was a crazy wild girl. That's what they would say.
This isn't the fan question episode, of course, but I thought I'd add a fan question into the end of this Tammy Sytch bit because it sort of follows onto it. So, questions for Dutch@gmail.com. Elmer Fudd, he announced as himself, asks, since you live in Florida, are you going to visit Sonny in prison and give us an update? If not, how about contributing to a commissary account?
Well, I don't really know how to take that. First of all, I'm not going to visit her at all. Before I would, okay, if I sat down across the table from Tammy, what am I going to say? Sorry you're here? I'm not sorry she's there. That's exactly where she should be. She should have been there 10 years ago. And that guy would still be alive, maybe. And will I contribute? You say contribute, right?
I say contribute. You'd say contribute, wouldn't you?
To her commissary account? No, I'm not donating anything to that woman.
I'm just looking where she's housed. It's called Ocala.
Ocala.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking here. Not only can you find it on Google, but the prisons have got star ratings. So Marion County Jail's got 1.6 out of 5 stars.
Is that where she is?
No, she's in Ocala.
That's a prison, though. You're rating jails.
Yeah, so county jail. No, I just searched for it. It's come up with several different ones, but it's not come up with Ocala. Where's that?
But it's a state prison.
Okay, where's that based?
What, the state prison?
Yeah.
I guess it's in Ocala.
Hang on. Right, let's... Ocala,
Wait a minute.
Florida.
You say, wait a minute. Prisons and jails in Florida have star ratings?
Yeah, apparently so. You can go on there and... imagine the ones in Japan. They'd all get 5 stars.
Why would they get stuck 5 stars?
Well, if Dave Meltzer was reviewing them.
No, they get 6 and 7
6
stars.
There we go. I'm trying to...
Yes.
I'm trying to look. It is... do you know it was quite close to your house? But anyway, you're still not going to make the drive. It's...
No, it's about 60, 70 miles.
Yeah, I'm just looking from Gainesville. Yeah, I know it's probably like 40 miles south of Gainesville or something like that. Anyway, enough of that. We're going to get on to, weirdly, not Dave Meltzer, but we're going to get on to Bryan Alvarez. So, there was a clip from the Bryan and Vinny show that was making the rounds on social media where it basically seems that Bryan Alvarez has sort of had it with AEW to a point. And it almost seems, when you listen to Wrestling Observer Radio, that Bryan's getting more exasperated with Dave Meltzer every week, and it always makes for really entertaining listening in that sense. So, Bryan Alvarez decided to vent his frustrations, not so much with the booking of AEW in a microcosm of one episode, but the week-to-week cliffhangers or lack of them. Did you watch the clip, or do you want me to quote what he said?
Well, quote what he said, and I agree with him.
Okay, so, where is the thread that connects all of these shows? That makes you want to tune into the next show. The big cliffhanger to lead you to Collision, a Dynamite cliffhanger that leads you to the next Dynamite, or a Dynamite 3 weeks down the road. It doesn't lead you to Collision. A Collision cliffhanger doesn't lead you to Dynamite. I like there's so many things going wrong here in the middle of like Tony Khan thinking everything's okay. Does that make sense? Am I the only one? Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? And then Vinny chimes in with, no, I get it. Yes, when a match on a good show ends, you should be, not just that was a good match, but also I can't wait to see what happens next. I'll fill in the next bit. Bryan then follows on with, yeah, what's next? And the two questions you almost never ask about AEW matches are what happens next and, man, that was a satisfying payoff to a long-term storyline or exciting chapter in the storyline or something. Stuff just happens. Yes, when every show is a great self-contained show, there's no incentive to watch another show unless you just want to watch great wrestling that night. Could you have skipped this Collision and missed nothing? And then sort of ends the clip.
I agree with him.
Yeah.
What has been my whole... Why do people watch wrestling? For the wrestling? Just for the wrestling? No. They don't watch it for the wrestling. They watch it to see a story or several stories play out with wrestling as the background. And he says self-contained episodes. They're good shows, but they just wrap it up and that's it. So if I'm a new fan and I'm from Norway or I'm from somewhere and I turn my TV on and there's wrestling. Oh, and in Norway, I've heard about it, but so I'm watching it and yeah, that's this and this and this. And then it just ends. You know, the good guy goes over. So, okay, we'll be back next week, fans, but I won't be back. There's nothing to bring me back. I don't want to just watch a bunch of guys wrestle around in a ring. What's the reason that they're in there? What are they going for? Well, and AEW, I'm lost. I mean, their show needs some technical improvements. If you look at Raw and you look at SmackDown, my God, it's like watching a Broadway play and watching a high school musical without the music, really. Because you watch Raw, it's well produced and it's sharp and it's colorful and it's got lights and music but you watch AEW, the arena's dark. It could be halfway full, but it's still dark. I don't know why they want to darken the arena down. That's what you usually do when nobody was in the seats. You darken it down. But it's darkened down. Sometimes the whole background can be full and it's still darkened down. So I think if Tony Khan would spend some of his money on making his show presentable or more pleasing to the eye, like Raw or like SmackDown, I think it would help him a lot. But they don't. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here because they have several people hurt. Of course, CM Punk left. And some people are hurt. I got that. But even when they weren't hurt, they still weren't doing much with them. Now, you sent me a couple of clips and you're not going to show them, but we can talk about them. And what was that first clip you sent me?
There was one with Nick Wayne. There was one with, I can't remember the other one. Oh, Dynamite Kid's nephew, who's also wrestling under the Dynamite Kid name.
What his name is? Tom Billington?
Yeah, he's calling himself Tommy Billington. We will get to both of those quite soon. Because we're talking about the episodic booking, two questions. When did you learn to book to always lead to a cliffhanger to keep people watching for the next episode? And also, who, in your opinion, was the best to book in that way?
I'll say two guys that I learned from. Jerry Jarrett in Memphis, because he had the idea. He used to tell me, this is, and he would call Lawler, he's the shining knight protecting the kingdom. And all of a sudden, these big, bad guys come in, these heels, and they want to take over. Not said they're going to take over. They're going to beat Lawler, take the title. They're going to run everything. And then they would go through everybody. It's, formula. And they would do all these little vignettes about the guy out of the studio. And he became a character. Of course, they had Jimmy Hart as the manager. He could take a trash can and make it presentable. And then it would finally come around to Lawler. It's either put up or shut up. And Lawler would put it up, and then he'd lose the title. Oh, God, it's all lost. Now Hart is bragging. And now they start about a 6-week program. And then it leads back. This is the story. It leads back to Lawler re-winning the title that he lost 3 or 4 months ago to the same guy.
But then it never settled. Lawler didn't just have the belt for 3 months with no real challenges, did he? He would then immediately be challenged again. And then it would lead to the next episode. See what happens to the next person talking or whatever.
But what happened when he was chasing for the belt, another heel would come in about 3 months after the top one. And while the top one was dealing with Lawler here, the other heel was back here getting over, churning, getting closer and closer and closer. And as soon as this one goes, this one moves in. And it just rotated like that. It takes a little planning, but Jerry Jarrett taught me that. And another one is Ron Fuller and Robert too. They were great at story. And what I liked about Ron, you could go up to Ron and you said, Ron, listen, or Robert, I said, I want to do, this is what I do. I say, I want to do this video about me doing this outside the studio. Oh yeah, we'll do that. Because he trusted me. And that's how I actually got all my heat. See, and I got a lot of heat in Puerto Rico, the same thing. But how I got heat there was I didn't talk about my opponent that much. I talked about the people. I talked about the fans. Like Puerto Rican fans, I just burnt them. I would say that they need to be excluded from the U.S. and they don't need nothing. They need to give those food stamps back, and they had to learn English before they could get anything. And I called the guys basically gay, all of them. And I called the women like underpaid prostitutes. And after a while, people, they really they started to really dislike me, almost to hate me. But it wasn't my wrestling that they were hating. They were hating me as a person. So they would come and pay money to see Carlos Colon or whoever else I'd go against. They would come and pay money to see if they could beat me up and kind of satisfy their need to see me get humbled. So,
and then you wouldn't. That would just keep on going.
I could get beat, because a lot of times I got beat, but that wasn't the end of the story that night. Well, then we just turn around and I'd hit Carlos with something in the face. He'd go down and I just beat the crap out of him, pull the bullwhip off and wear it out on him. So the people were satisfied, but yet, who'd you say Alvarez was talking about the story?
Mm-hmm.
The story didn't end. The story continues to next week, because we come back on TV that Saturday and replay me bullwhipping Carlos. That's a pretty strong figure. Some guy bullwhipping another guy in the ring, and we'd come back with some kind of a stipulation match or something. But so we went we set a record in Puerto Rico, 9 weeks in a row sellouts. Every Saturday night during this 9 weeks, and all the other little towns were, you go to a little town, it usually does with nothing on the wrestling. You do 150, 200 people. We'd be doing 1,200 people. We was jamming it out. So, and I told you what I made down there, right? Didn't you? We figured that up.
Wasn't it something like $4,500? Like, was your best payoff down there for like a single event, or was it a week?
No, it was a week.
Yeah.
The biggest payoff I've ever had, other than WWE, for a single event was like $2,500. I
think we worked it out as like around $20,000 in today's money, so it's not bad for a week's worth of work. No, absolutely not.
I actually bought my first house on 9 weeks' work in Puerto Rico, so that's not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Was that for cash as well? You didn't get a mortgage; you're just like done.
No, I don't. I think I had it mortgaged. I didn't want to give my cash up. I'm a cheap bastard.
I want to bring you back to AEW briefly, and then we'll. I've formatted this really badly. I've slipped in WWE stuff with AEW, but anyway, we'll just bounce back and forth, I guess. Something else I've heard talked about recently is, and this always used to happen in the NWA Mid-Atlantic when Dusty was booking. Let's say he was the champion or he wasn't the champion. Everybody who got up on that podium with Tony Schiavone or David Crockett, whoever, would always be talking about, I want a shot at the title, I want a shot at the champion, or I want a shot at Dusty Rhodes. From Magnum to Ron Garvin to number one Paul Jones. Everybody would talk about how they wanted to be the champion. And that's something that's really sort of missing from AEW for the most part, because I think Swerve Strickland's feuding with Christian and his little family with Nick Wayne and Killswitch. And that's sort of about it, really. Not enough people go out there from, John Moxley or Edge or whoever it may be, just gets on the microphone and says, do you know what? I really want that title. Even if they're not in a feud with Swerve or Samoa Joe or whoever it may be. That it seems a shame that more people should be talking about they want that belt all the time. That should be a
how many belts do they have?
I counted 9 at the moment.
Well, you see, why does your heavyweight belt stand out amongst all the others? I don't get it. Alvarez, I don't agree with a lot of his stuff, but he does say that the story is lacking. It's not. They got some great talent in AEW. I'll give them credit. Some great talent. But sometimes you don't see this talent for like a month at a time, 6 weeks at a time. You don't even know the talent is still there. So
where's Britt Baker? She's been gone for a year. I think Jamie Hayter's been gone for a year. That's 2 of the women who people loved and they just not turned back. I'm just looking at Wikipedia.
Where did Jamie Hayter go?
I think she got injured, but she's been gone for a year. So
yeah, but the good thing about that is she's getting paid.
Mm.
And Brett Baker, is she getting paid?
I presume she would be. Let me just tell you the titles at the moment. So just the singles men's, the World Championship, which is obviously number one. And then we've got 4 undercard titles. And I don't know what order they are in importance to one another. So we've got the TNT Championship with Adam Copeland, the International Championship with Roderick Strong, the Continental Championship with Okada, and the FTW Championship, which is Chris Jericho. So there are 4 undercard singles titles that are all secondary. But I don't know which one is meant to be more important than the other, if they are. They're just titles floating out in the ether.
And nobody else knows either. Yeah. They can't, my title is more than yours or mine. After a while, it just runs all together, and you just lose interest. I'd rather not even a title be involved. Just guys, go out there. You don't like each other. One guy says something about you from the ring, and he hears about it, and he could leave the ring and come up and say, "What did you say? Why? Somebody, whatever," and start it right there at the desk. That's different. Do it in a different way. But what's happening in AEW, and I've said this before, you can't book 4 shows. Isn't that what Tony's booking?
Exactly, yeah. 3 AEW and a Ring of Honor. Yeah, that's too many shows to keep continuity.
You can book it, but it's going to be lacking somewhere. Because when does the boredom just set in? You just can't think anymore, especially in the wrestling business. Because I think you can do more with less, but I think Tony has like 160 talents under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it?
Probably
and then
more.
they got rid of 10 or 12, which was unusual for them. But most of the talent, they have talent there now I've never even heard of. So when they bring him on TV, he's been here for whatever, but I've never even heard of him. I never even heard of him off the indies. So that's what TV is for, is to get your fans acclimated to this one character, but you got to stay on that character. You can't have him on one week and then all of a sudden you don't see him again for like a month or 6 weeks. It's like a running back in college, say high school football. All of a sudden he has a good game, but then all of a sudden he's not in the next game or the next game. The next game, finally you're saying, well, where's that kid who damn rushed for 120 yards in the first game? Is he hurt? No. Where is he? Oh, he's standing right there on the sideline. Why aren't they using him? I don't know. Ask the coach. But see, to be a booker, it's not that hard to be a booker. Anybody can be a booker. I'll say, wait a minute. Okay, I'm gonna book something with me and you.
Mm.
Okay, I'm in a ring and you come in there and you hit me with a 2x4 and knock me out. Okay, that's an angle. Okay, the next week, you're in the match. I come in the ring with 2x4, hit you, knock you out. Okay, that's continuation of the story. So we both knocked each other out. So now we're back where we started.
Yeah, so we've both got a lump on our heads now.
Yeah, but the really way, if you knock me out and you're the heel, when I come in there with the 2x4, you run. And when I catch you, now it makes you a heel. And at least we got a little bit of a story going there, and just add to that a little more.
Hang on, if I run away from you and you're trying to hit me with the 2x4, that just makes me not an idiot. If I run away from you.
Yeah, but you're a chicken shit.
Okay, fair enough. There's one thing at the beginning I wanted to bring up and I just sort of forgot. This has all come about because of the last month, Dynamite's viewership has been hovering around or even below 700,000. So it's an all-time low for Dynamite viewership, pretty much. And there has been
Dynamite is on Wednesday.
Wednesday, indeed. There has
been 700,000 is the lowest they've gone.
No, they've done like 680 something.
I think they went under 5 a couple of times.
If they have, then it probably would have been because Dynamite was on a different day. I think that's pretty much the lowest they've ever been on a regular time. And it's now consistent. As I say, there was NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, they're hitting Raw, they're hitting Dynamite, they're hitting everybody. Even saying that, these ratings are really bad. So we don't know. I don't think Dynamite, as has happened yesterday, has had big competition, but we don't know what the viewership is as we record this, but maybe by the time it's edited, editor Chris can put the number down below here and then we'll figure it out from there. Right, we're going to move on from this and we're going to talk about Cody Rhodes, a couple of different things. Briefly about Cody, he says he wants a manager. So, quote, when Logan Paul and I were doing this contract signing, to see him flanked by so many people, I don't know, maybe I'm looking for the classic wrestling manager to join me on this title reign. What do you think about babyface managers?
Hard to have, but he doesn't need to have a manager. He needs to have like a coach type. Arn Anderson used to be his.
Your camera's just died.
What the hell is it doing? What's it doing? It's all over the place, buddy. How is that? Better?
There we go. Your camera just went. Ugh.
I don't know what's the matter with it.
No, I don't. It's back now.
Because it's always in the middle of the show that it starts acting up. But anyway, back to Cody.
Yeah, so he had Arn Anderson in AEW. I think he mentions Arn or alludes to him as well, that he would like an Arn Anderson to sort of walk him out to the ring again. But, I mean, one, who would it be? And two, as you were getting on with there, babyface managers are difficult to have.
They are difficult to have, but that sets up the story because they're hard to have, and his allegiance and his dedication is to Cody, is to Cody. But what you're setting up is the big turn. About 6 months down the line, he sells out for money, or he sells out for this, and all of a sudden he cost Cody the title, and now he joins the other guy. Now that's what I'm talking about, story. Because without that story, Cody trusted him and, brought him along and helped him when he was down. And he was a friend of his dad's. And, it's almost like a member of the family turning on you. And all that does is just set up the turn and let this guy say it's Arn. Arn is very loyal to Cody. So you would never expect that. So when you set it up, and that's what you tune in for the next week or the next couple of weeks to see where that story is going. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're hard to have. They really are. I think Bruno used to have one. Yeah,
Arnold Skoland, I believe. And then he transferred to Bob Backlund after.
But
he didn't do anything. He just walked him to the ring, and that was it, really.
Yeah, that's all. But I think they were trying to fashion that out of the boxing managers of the day that just go to the corner and give you advice. And he never did anything at all. And that always, like, I said, why don't they do something with him? Everybody knows who he is. But then again, he may not want to do anything. It was Vince Sr. running it then. So, yeah, they're a good addition to a babyface if he has a plan to turn later on or do something later on. Hey, we hadn't talked about Vince Sr. in a while either.
Have we ever talked about Vince Sr.? You never met him, did you?
I'm not Vince Sr., Vince Jr.
I think there's a question on Tuesday's episode about Vince that we can dive into, which will be an interesting one. But that'll be for Tuesday's episode of Ask Dutch Anything. So stay on for that. Well, just tune in for that one, I guess. I'm going to stick with Cody Rhodes for now. And he said there's a possibility that he went off script. And this is going to be open to all sorts of different conspiracy theories here. But when Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble, and then went on SmackDown, and you watched as well, introduced The Rock, and then essentially he gave him a hug, and then essentially gave the number one contender spot that he won at the Royal Rumble to The Rock, and then it was going to be The Rock and Roman Reigns. Brian Gewirtz has basically said that Cody went off script. So, for your cultaholic, because Cody, it was supposed to be in some form like, yeah, effing yeah, go get him, Rock. You're going to get your ass kicked, Roman. Let's do this. And kind of this uplifting promo. And instead, Cody looked like someone shot his dog in the face in the parking lot. Like you said, just look at his expression. And by the way, someone else who, even when the team wins, sometimes looks forlorn and upset and despondent, Julius Randle, NBA guy. So, yeah, that I don't think help matters. And then on if Cody influenced script changes, Brian said it might not have changed. It might not have affected anything, but certainly on paper. And by the way, I don't even blame Cody for that because he's real. He's one of the realest people I've ever met. So, yeah, it's like he said what he had to say in the promo. So essentially, Cody was meant to be more upbeat and the passing of the torch to Rock, and then Cody just went out miserable.
It made no sense. He was going to finish the story. That is the story, to finish the story and win the belt for his dad. Finish the story. And Rock comes in, and all of a sudden he wants to finish the story, and he just turns and gives it to Rock, like enthusiastically. People would have dumped all over that. Everybody thought that something has gone on, which really made the angle better. They have forced Cody to do this. That's what everybody, because you want the people to think past the curtain a little bit. Wait a minute. Because they've been going to finish the story. And all of a sudden, The Rock gets there and he wants to hand it to him, which he did, but he shouldn't be happy about it. It made no sense whatsoever. So when he walked away, it was clunky, I will say that, but I think that put more brains in motion. Like, there's something going on here backstage. So, and they fixed that on Raw. Didn't they fix it on Raw?
They fixed it really soon afterwards, and then they muddied the waters of what the main event would be. And then I think maybe Triple H announced, no, it will definitely be Cody versus Roman. So they definitely corrected course.
Well, they did that. I think RKO figured in that too.
RKO?
Is that their name? RKO?
TKO.
TKO.
Yeah.
I think they figured into that too. But now they're learning the wrestling business too. But even in MMA, it's up to those guys. Those guys work their own angles anyway. If they want to be there and they're pretty good and he's a smart mouth or something. And I mean, I don't know how much help they get backstage, if any, but they go out there and the MMA fighters, they show personality. But if the crowd likes them, they're not stupid. They will say, okay, we're going to go with this guy as long as he can go. Mm-hmm. And now they're seeing wrestling, but now it's choreographed and written out. Now you can kind of see where you're going. Now, if you have a story, say you want a big house naked, you just can't work a hot angle and sell out like you used to, unless you're giving away vast stretches of time. See, the WWE has to go from, say, July the 4th to July the 4th. They got 52 weeks of the year, and they got to stretch that out because they can burn through that quickly. I've been in some territories, they would burn through a year of angles in 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Then all of a sudden, damn, what are we going to do now? Mm-hmm. Because you've done everything. And you can take your time and do this, but some territories, they're just like this. They just want to crank them off. Can't do that. I mean, you can, but it will, and you're going to take a little ass kicking early in that cell stage. How long did the bloodline go on?
Oh, it's still going on. It's 3 years plus by now.
3 years, but they could, and there's still a story to be told with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Roman comes back, and him and what's his name, Sokoa,
mm-hmm.
They're not going to get along.
No, and it'll probably be Rock and Roman.
Well, Roman's a hell of a babyface anyway, but Paul Heyman is the key to that, because whatever happens, it's going to go through Heyman. I mean, he's going to play an integral part in wherever this story goes. And I don't care what anybody says. I love the story. I think everybody else loves the story. But you're thinking, everybody's thinking, where is this leading? Where is it going? So let's watch it every week to see where it goes. And if the bookers are smart, and they are, they never go too far that they can't back up and turn around and come back and pick it up when it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing. Sometimes I've seen bookers, they just ruin the angle. They would shoot one so strong there was no going back. And if you went back, it didn't make any sense. And the first time you start not making sense to them, they go, screw this. You just gotta keep them invested, and you gotta keep them tuning in.
Well, that's exactly sort of what happened with Cody and Rock. So the theory, or there's a conspiracy now, is that even before Cody won the Royal Rumble, they knew The Rock was coming in. So let's say a few weeks beforehand. And still Cody won the Royal Rumble, which would make him the number one contender, and then it muddied the waters, etc. But do you think that there were some people in influential places within WWE who were in some way anti-Rock and tried to ruin The Rock's chances of actually main eventing WrestleMania, and who were pro-Cody and wanted him to continue? And basically this is all one giant conspiracy to generate enough fan sympathy for Cody that The Rock could no way be in the main event.
Well, there may have been people there that was pulling for Cody, but I don't think trying to actively sabotage the whole angle. No, I don't think that happened. I think this angle came about organically, because they could see that, well, we made a mistake. I mean, you can tell when he was walking away that, I was thinking, they've screwed this up.
Hey, but he did go off script. So what if he'd reacted a different way and said,
maybe
you go get him?
Who said that he was supposed to do that?
This is The Rock's writer, Brian Alverez. So The Rock's own personal writer has said they've scripted something out, and then Cody reacted completely the opposite to the way they'd agreed to. So, so maybe there is some subterfuge there.
Well, on Cody's part.
Maybe, yeah.
On Cody's part. Cody says he may not have told us so. He may not have took Brian Gerwitz to the side, or the head writer to the side, whoever they are, and says, this doesn't make sense. He just went out there and did what he did, which I think he did the right thing, because that got me to thinking. I went, and that's what you want him to do. Can you do that? And he walked away so depressed. You kind of felt sorry for him.
Well, maybe he felt that way. Maybe he was like, this sucks.
I'm sure he did, because they promised him. But I don't buy that either, because The Rock knew he had this movie coming up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the Smashing Machine.
Well, whatever it is, he knew he had it coming up. So he was going to be gone for an extended period of time. So for him to have the belt, it would have screwed things up.
You think he would have beat Roman if that's how it would have gone?
Oh, he was going to beat. Listen. It was whoever was going to beat Roman was going to disappear for a while. Whether it was Cody, whether it was Rock, and if Rock had beat him, I don't know what they would have done with the title. I don't know. But we knew that the Roman was going to disappear. But see, Cody needs him. And that's why all of a sudden he loses the title and the whole bloodline gets readjusted, re-relegated, reassigned. The only thing with the original bloodline now is Heyman. But now you almost got two bloodlines. So they got a hell of a story and just sitting on top of that. And let's see how they handle that.
Now,
I don't got to know the story to know that I'm interested in it.
Now, we're going to move on, and this happened last Friday on SmackDown. I sent you the clip to refresh your memory as well. There was a little chair shot screw-up between Jade Cargill and Nia Jax. So, how did it end up that Jade got disqualified and Nia didn't?
It was the referee didn't see it. And she didn't, just to me, she went to throw the shot at Jade, but didn't connect because Jade intercepted it. And she took it, then she hit her back. And the referee saw that. I think he saw the first part of it. I don't know. They will cover it somehow.
Let's watch it together and let's see if we can find out.
But I'm looking. I want you to see the angle of these chairs. If you take I don't know who agented this match. If you take a chair, you never hit them with the top part of the chair going at the person. You turn it the other way. So it's curved coming in. But they got it in reverse both times. Watch this.
All right, let's have a little watch. 1 sec. Okay, we're back.
Nia's gonna get herself disqualified.
Okay.
Just sort of taps Jade on the head, but yeah.
Oh!
But I'm sure the referee's staring right at
Okay,
him.
you see that the angle of the chair, the top section of it where you lean back. Stop it right there.
Yeah.
See, it's aimed toward her head. That chair should be reversed. So you're going in there with the shallow portion of it.
Mm.
Because if that hits you, you're gone.
Mm.
You got it. This is going to open you up like what they say, a sieve. But it will knock you out. Okay, she catches the chair.
Well, she gets the chair. I'm just going to scrub through that. Well, she doesn't catch the chair. That's the thing. Nia throws it a bit too hard. It goes through Jade's hands. And so she gets clattered with the chair, as you can see.
Look at her face.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
So whoops. And then Jade gets the chair back, hits her in the back. And the referee is staring right at the entire thing. So it's more just a little botch kind of thing. But yeah. It's one of those things, right, that it bugs wrestling fans. Well, it bugs me a bit as well. Is how come you can bring in, let's say there's two different things. Like you can bring in any weapon into the ring, but as long as you don't use it, it's not a disqualification. Or you can try and swing a weapon and in this case actually hit somebody, but it doesn't fit the story, obviously, because Nia Jax has got to advance. But you can actually hit somebody or attempt to hit somebody, and that's still not a disqualification.
Now, you know why they did a disqualification, right?
Yeah, it was a Queen of the Ring tournament, so they had to do it. And they don't want to beat Jade pinfall, obviously.
And they don't want to beat Nia Jax. Because I think their little program will mean something. I really do.
It's all going to lead to a big body slam, isn't it? Like Hulk Hogan and Andre.
Okay, who wins the men's King of the Ring?
Who's in it? Gunther and who? Randy Orton.
Yep.
Gunther.
Who wins that one?
I say Gunther.
I would say Gunther.
Why?
But who wins the other one between Tama Tonga? Is that it? And Jey Uso?
I think that's already happened.
Has it?
Yeah. Hang on. Queen of the Ring is a TV series. That wasn't what I was hoping for. Damn.
See, this King of the Ring and the Queen of the Ring, it kind of confuses me anyway. But I think this is Gunther's time. That's what I'm saying. I think it's Gunther's time. And I've called him forever he's a new reincarnation of Johnny Valentine. And I think they can go a long, long way with Gunther because he's not exposed every night. He goes out there and literally just beats the crap out of people.
We got it slightly confused. So it's actually Gunther's in the finals, and then as we record this, Randy Orton and Tama Tonga are in the semi-finals. So we're assuming... Well, I mean, are we assuming that Randy Orton's going to get to the finals?
Okay, what's the other match underneath it?
So Gunther beat Jey Uso in the semis to go to the finals.
Okay.
And then Randy Orton versus Tama Tonga in the semi-finals, and then the winner of that
I think
goes to Gunther.
Orton advances over that.
Okay, and in the women's...
And you know why? You know why I say that? Because Gunther, if he went up against Tonga, is that his name?
Tama Tonga.
Tama Tonga. Gunther'd be like a babyface.
Mm.
So they want Orton in there because he's just come back, big star. He looks great. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to be Gunther and Orton.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong. I'm not there. I don't know what they're going to do. Surprise me.
Speaking of King of the Ring, someone who was not included in it, and they're sort of including it into their character, is Bron Brekker. Angry that he wasn't included in the King of the Ring tournament, Bron Brekker takes his wrath out on a hapless opponent. So it's an NXT sort of a lower down kind of guy called Cale Dixon. And in the process, sort of turns heel in destroying this young fella, but not really, because the fans cheer him even more and want him to kill this guy even more. So I don't know how successful as a heel turn it was, but this is sort of Bron. He's called Bronson Rechstein, I forgot to. I don't know. That's such a better name as well than Bron Brekker. But you watched his WWE main roster sort of like proper debut, I guess. What did you think of it?
Well, they got to be careful with Bron Brekker because, and I saw this last match that you sent me. He just beats the hell out of the guy. And in the process, he did nothing that the fans would like. I guess he's a babyface, but he's like, he could be either one with that style. So I got to see how he is with story. Oh yeah, he can have a 45-second match, a minute match. Now, he didn't have those at NXT, but I want to see how he does with a story because, you know, we've seen forever the guy comes in, he's tough and nobody could beat him. And to me, he's doing a reincarnation of Goldberg with the spear. So, but when it comes to the time that he's supposed to actually start wrestling, how are the people going to take him? But and the creative will see how they take to him, and they're going to put him with I'm sure they'll put him with a real strong heel, and they may have him maybe disguised to go up against Gunther because both of them have that same style where they beat the crap out of each other. But that really kind of Bron Brekker, he's been going out there and scoring like minute wins. But Gunther, he'll go 20 minutes, 15 anyway. So does that expose Bron Brekker? But this is what Bron Brekker is going to have to learn to do. He's going to have to learn to extend his matches out and they will coach him. And that's what I like about WWE. They got some great guys on the sidelines that can coach you if they listen. And you will have to listen in WWE because in AEW, I hear that they don't listen. They just go out there and do what they want to do. See, I don't even think they understand the business they're in. But in WWE, yeah, they do understand because they have to understand to fit into the process. I know that sounds complicated, but it's not. You do what you're told and the way he would tell you to do it.
I'm just looking at the lengths he's gone to. I mean, the longest match I found was with Seth Rollins at 17 minutes, but generally he goes, in the big matches, he's going 15, 16 minutes, 14, 15, 16 minutes. So he's capable of a mid-length match, certainly. So, and he's got some experience in that, especially because he was
and I'm not saying I'm not saying he can't do it, but what I'm saying is how the people going to receive it, the fans. That's what I'm saying.
I wonder. I mean, he's credible, of course, isn't he? I mean,
yes, he. Oh yeah, he. Listen, if he was walking down, this is how I think a lot of fans judge wrestlers. If you're walking down the street and he's walking towards you with his shirt off, you going to say anything to him? If he's in a pissed off mood anyway, no, you're just going to walk right on by him because he looks like he could just rip you in two. And that's half the game right there.
Well, I was going to ask you this as well, because what wrestling in the modern era compared to the old era is missing as much is some serious just ass-kicking characters. Yes. I mean, back in like the 80s and early 90s, I mean, the WCW, for example, or NWA, were just absolutely full of them. And they'd all rip your head off, pretty much, it seemed like. Whereas a character in 2024 like Bron Brekker, who can legitimately hurt you, looks like he can, then is he just not automatically going to be a babyface just because that's what fans want and they're not getting enough of it?
Well, I think he's in the middle right now. I really do. He may have been was he a babyface in NXT?
I think he was both.
And I think he can be both here. I think he's what you call a tweener, which is actually the best place to be. Because instead of say they have a roster of 24 guys, he's one of 12 in the heel or babyface side. Well, he's got 12 opponents on the other side, babyfaces. But if he's a tweener, he's got 11 on his side. So he's got a bunch of different ways to go with him. So we'll see what he does, but I'm impressed with what he's doing. What I saw on SmackDown was the matches were more under control. I mean, it wasn't doom, boom, boom, boom. They slowed down. And you watch a guy like Randy Orton. Randy Orton, you know, he'll just look at you. And the face tells the story. And everybody that's watching that TV, when he turns that head and he's looking like over his shoulder a little bit, you're thinking, what is he thinking? But he learned that a long time ago. I think he went to OVW in Louisville. I think he was there for a while. That was the training school.
That's where he started, yeah.
In OVW, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he learned that. But see, part of the story, and I talk about story all the time, part of the story is your facials have to tell it too.
I very quickly want to lay this one on you. Steve Austin to stay retired, it seems. Back in February, Stone Cold Steve Austin said never say never in regards to having another match. Then when asked to participate in WrestleMania 40 in the main event in a non-wrestling but physical role, it was said that Austin and WWE couldn't come to a financial agreement. And now, during the closing credits of his A&E biography, Austin had the following to say in regards to returning to the ring yet again following his main event bout with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38. That was a couple of years ago. Quote is, "I've walked away, I'm happy with what I did, and there's people who have done more and lasted longer. I had a pretty good run, and I'm pretty happy with it, so I ain't got nothing to prove to nobody." Mm-hmm. So.
I believe it.
You think he's done? You think he's got it out of his system?
What's according to what they want him to do? I think if the system is having a match, I don't think you're going to see him in a match.
No.
Because there's no need to see him in a match. If he was in somebody's corner, he was the second, he was this, he was that. All that was required to do was him giving the stunner. Yeah, he can do that.
Yeah, but he turned it down at WrestleMania 40. I mean, he claims it was money.
Well, I'm sure it was money. Yeah. What do you think he wanted?
7 figures, probably. Do you think that's too much just for an unadvertised appearance?
I don't know what they did worldwide in pay-per-views. I know they got tons and tons and tons of money. And this is TKO's first pay-per-view. So they wanted to come off big time. So for him to give TKO a figure they didn't figure that he was worth, they could have given it to him if they'd wanted to, but they didn't. Give me a figure, and I'll say if it's feasible.
Okay, in all seriousness, Austin, let's say for being in the main event, even though it was unadvertised, just for a quick spot, $500,000.
I think he asked for more.
I think he probably. I bet he said, "Give me $1 million," because he probably would have seen main event, WrestleMania.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I would have said. What's the worst thing they can say? Is no. But they didn't want to meet it. They said, okay.
Why has Austin been so hard to convince to return to the ring? So there were rumours about him doing potential one-off matches for years. Obviously, he had the neck issues that caused him to retire. I suspect at some point his neck was healthy enough he could come back. I don't know if it was at WrestleMania 38 with Kevin Owens. I don't know how many years prior it was where he would have been deemed healthy enough to wrestle again, or at least for one more match. But there was rumours from CM Punk to Brock Lesnar that Austin was going to return, and he never did until he was 57 years old in New Orleans. It wasn't in New Orleans, was it? With Kevin Owens in a match that really over-delivered, quite frankly, for what people thought they were going to get. So why has it been so difficult to get back to the ring?
Under-delivered?
Over-delivered. Did I say under?
I don't know. I didn't understand what you said.
No, so he over-delivered in his performance. So, but anyway, why is Austin so hard to get back to wrestling?
First of all, he doesn't need to wrestle.
But he loves it. He does love it, though.
Yeah, but you either meet, this is it. He said, you either meet my price or, hey, let's don't even do it. You say $500,000. I said $1 million. I will go maybe 750,000. Right. So, but to me, they didn't even negotiate because they didn't even meet anywhere. If they say, well, we give you this, and he said, I got to have more than that. Well, give us I don't know who was doing his negotiating, I guess himself. But I look at it like this. Say 250,000. How many people can sit around and say, well, hell, I ain't got nothing to do this Sunday, this Saturday night. I think I'll just go over there to the arena and make about $250,000. What? Oh, yeah. I'll be back later. See you later, hon. Boom, he's gone. Now, everybody wishes they could do that. And here's a guy that had a chance to do it, but turned it down. So it just goes to show you how much money he made, plus his other ventures that he's doing there are making him money. So, and he, him and Vince, they had a adversarial relationship for a number of years. They was always at each other's throat. But he drew so much money, they couldn't keep him down. And Vince knew that. Vince hated that. So, and I think I don't think Steve would let this be known. But I bet he said, well, he finally got his ass caught. So, it may have been a little bit of a win for him, but I don't think him and Vince were that buddy. They were buddies for a while, I'm sure, but not that buddy that some people might think they were.
What makes you say that? So obviously on-screen relationship, they were at each other's throats, but off-screen, what makes you think that it was more contentious than Steve would be willing to let on?
Well, Steve, he didn't say a lot. You'd have to read between the lines. When I was around Steve, mostly was when he just got started there. What was that gimmick he was doing when he started there?
Oh, it's your favorite, the Ringmaster.
Oh my God. I told him one day, I said, boy, that's a winner. So I used to ride a lot with him anyway. And he said, oh yeah, tell me about it. And then all of a sudden he gave himself the Stone Cold deal. And I was riding with him one day and I told him, I said, what did I give him? Not Stone Cold. I gave him something else. Anyway. But I told him, I gave him the Austin name. That's what I did. And then he gave the Stone Cold, and then his wife gave something, and pretty soon he was in business. But I think they listened to him when he started, because he's hard-headed as hell. See, he knew his character, and this is where a lot of guys, if they're going to be a success in anything, say the guy's a singer, but he can feel the mood of the room when he goes out to sing this song, and he knows it's going to do something. Well, Austin was going to the ring every night, and he was feeling those people, feeling them. And then slowly, and he's the type of guy who really taught himself this business. Because even when I had him, I was watching him. I had him in Memphis. And I told him, I said, listen, I want you to watch every match, every night till you leave. So, and he had a match and he come back and he said, how was it? I said, well, it'd be easier to tell you. So what'd you like about my matches? I said, well, it'd be easier to tell you what I didn't like. He said, well, what didn't you like? I said, everything. So that's when I told him, I said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get a chair, sit down at the curtain. I want you to watch every match, every night till the time you leave. And he did. Every night when I was looking for Austin, I'd go to the curtain. There he wouldn't. He'd be sitting there and have a chair, his mouth full of tobacco, spitting in a cup, but he was watching the matches. So he was learning, and one thing I said, man, he was self-taught a lot, because he had started down there in Texas with the Von Erichs, and didn't much go anywhere, didn't learn anything there. And that's when I brought him to Memphis. So, and I rode 30,000 miles of that guy, 40. Good talker.
With, just to return to what you mentioned before, that he probably wasn't all buddy-buddy with Vince McMahon, as probably some people have been led to believe, or the impression he's given, I don't know. Another thing that he said was, whenever he was given some creative that he didn't like, he would just go, that sucks, and then just leave it. He'd never offer a plan B in that sense. So do you think that's partly why he and Vince may have butted heads more than they could have done over the years?
Well, probably they wanted to do a lot of stupid stuff, and he refused to do it. I mean, because if he started doing stupid stuff in the iteration of Stone Cold Steve Austin, it would have hurt the whole gimmick. It would have hurt the whole character. So he went out there, and he was the type that he was like your next door neighbor talking about the boss. Because everybody hates the boss. Everybody get jacked around at work and all this, and you got some people you don't like. Well, Vince was that for him, and he would talk about it, and people identified with that. And I told Vince this one time. I said, you and Austin, they came to Nashville. I was living there, and I went down just to see them. And I was walking in, and Vince was walking in. I said, Vince, I just got to tell you, the thing you're doing with Austin, probably one of the greatest stories of the greatest things I've seen, because it kept the people watching, kept me watching, and I know what's going on. I think I do. But him and Austin, what a story they had. And it went on and on and on and on. And the people still talk about it. That's how strong it was.
But ultimately, you think Austin isn't disappointed that Vince got caught, or has been accused, or has been thrown out.
Oh, I'm sure he makes jokes about it, because that's the type of guy he is. He takes his boy. Well, goddamn Vince, you should have reined it down when I told you to, boy.
Right, we'll move on, and this is another video that we're going to watch together. Now, this is something I didn't send you, but this has been doing the rounds as well, so you might have seen it. Who knows? Barbed wire trampoline. Have you seen it?
Well, I did see that.
Oh, good. Well, we're going to watch it together anyway, and then we're going to have a good laugh. One sec. Okay, so you've already seen this, so this has sort of spoiled the surprise of it, but shall we... hang on, I don't need that. One sec. Get rid of them. Right. Ready?
Yep. Oh, I love this. Oh, my God. Boop. That's when he hit his head.
So for the audio listeners, what's happened here?
Okay. He's standing up. Where was this done? Was this an insane clown posse?
No, I think Triple H's thoughts has tweeted, nothing says pro wrestling like a gorilla press off a rooftop onto a barbed wire trampoline. The only thing missing is a shout out to the juggalos and juggalettes, whoop whoop.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, hey, that's a pretty dangerous move that the guy doing it, because he could have fell off too.
No such luck. Let's watch it one more time.
Oh, my God.
He bounces. Oh, do you know what I've just noticed? There's a big
yeah.
There's a big padding thing under it as
yes.
well, just in case it went wrong.
Yes. Safety.
Safety first.
Safety first. Hey, that he's coming down about 15 feet anyway.
Look how much he bounced. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. And he throws it. I don't know what type match this was. Anything goes, I guess. Threw him off the top. And I've been at some of these shows. They would have matches like this, and the crowd would just get up and leave their seats and go and see what they're doing. See, they're checking on him right there. Run it back just a little bit, James.
Where are we?
Watch that. Watch his last bump. His head hits the deal right here. Watch his head.
Boink.
Boom. And that's what knocked him out.
Oh, so he actually was knocked out then? I thought.
Oh, yeah. He was knocked out.
Dare I say, I thought he was selling, but at this level, I doubt.
Oh,
there's no such thing as selling. Really.
It's crazy, but see, that's the type of guy you get in wrestling. One guy tells the other guy in the back, "Hey, man, I got this hell of a damn spot. What is it? We get up there on top of that roof, and somehow I get you up." And they got they'd set it up. I'm going to throw you off. I'm going to press slam you off, and you hit that trampoline and bounce, and you're done. God, I love it, man. Till he's over there knocked out. Because when he hit that trampoline, he actually, if that pad hadn't have been there, he would have touched the ground. And then he bounced up, and then when he landed, his head went over there and hit that,
like the rim of the outer frame.
The rim of the trampoline, and it knocked him out.
Hey, well, you know what? It was worth watching. Where does this fall in the litany of the stupidest things we've seen in indie wrestling of all time? Because I still remember the guy who lit his own head on fire and then did a flaming headbutt, but actually, he just set his head on fire and fell off.
Yeah, he set his head on fire and he went, "Oh God, oh God." Then he jumped on and rolling around. Yeah, that was stupid. And the other one was the girl, right? She did a flip on the guy on the floor in a chair, and he moved.
Yeah.
And she just tore the chair up. That is stupid. This here is not quite as stupid, but pretty stupid. Because, if you're going to do something like that, make some money with it.
Hey, look, you probably got a beer and a hot dog.
Yeah, maybe $50, maybe. But, if you get hurt and you're wrestling and you have insurance and they find out you got hurt wrestling, they don't have to pay. He could have broke his leg, broke his knee. He probably had a concussion hitting that iron or that aluminum railing around the trampoline. But ask me, would I do that?
Do we need to? We know the answer. Well, go on. That. Would you do that for a beer and a hot dog? 2 hot dogs?
No, not no, but hell effing no. You couldn't even get me on the roof of the house. You'd have to seriously, you'd have to put a chain around my neck and drag me up there. And when he tried to pick, I wouldn't let him pick me up. I'd grab his legs. I'd just lay around. I'd grab the gutters.
You'd be like tearing up the shingles off the roof and stuff.
I'm not going. So, but I wouldn't have done that.
It's all good fodder for the podcast, if nothing else. We're going to move on.
It is good stuff.
Right, we're actually going to go to AEW back again because I sort of didn't really format the script properly. Nephew of the Dynamite Kid, debuts on AEW Collision. He's wrestling as Tommy Billington Jr. I believe he also wrestled with his brother or cousin and stuff like that. I remember seeing a photo of these 2 kids years ago, and they were skinny as rails. And I think they started wrestling a few years ago. But anyway, Tommy Billington Jr., the Dynamite Kid.
He's the son of Dynamite Kid.
Nephew.
Well, they look alike.
No, there's a similarity. There's a similarity, definitely.
Oh, strong one, too.
So you actually watched the match Dynamite Kid 2.
Listen,
let's call him versus Dax Harwood.
Yes, if I was Tony Khan, I would bring in a sandwich truck and tell all those skinny bastards, guys, go over there and eat to your heart's content. This kid couldn't have weighed 150 pounds, 160 pounds. And Harwood was giving him a competitive match.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
That's exactly what I was going to bring up to you. It's like Harwood must have outweighed him by, 70? And Dax Harwood is, 5'8" tops? So I think he walked past me once, and I remember thinking he was smaller than I thought he'd be. And he's not that big, and he dwarfed the Dynamite Kid too.
I mean, he looked like a rail. The kid did. Oh yeah, can he get in there and do moves? Yeah, he can do that. Does he look the part? Not no, but hell no. So if you're going to put him out there, yeah, he's a pretty decent performer, and he can do some stuff. But I think he was overmatched. I think he was, when you put him with Dax Harwood, the people say, well, this is not going to go long. But it went longer than that I thought.
Hey, well, the video I sent you, that was after the commercial. I mean, I think the full video is 17 minutes or something. It goes quite long.
Now you tell me, listen. I tell you, tell me, listen. You said, I'm listening, okay. But it's way too long. Way too long to maintain interest. Okay, the guy's related to Billington Sr. We got it. That's where the story kind of stops. And he looks like, those UNESCO commercials they used to run about those starving kids in Africa.
Yeah.
That's what he looked like. Somebody needed to give him a hot dog, a Coke, give him something, some beans, give him some potatoes. He didn't look like he didn't fit the part.
Is he too young, and is he too?
He's too skinny.
Not developed enough physically to have the Dynamite Kid name, because all you're gonna. I mean, he's already wrestling like a Dynamite Kid tribute act, but now he's got the Dynamite Kid name, but you can't take him seriously at that size.
I don't. And that's what we're trying to talk about. There was no story. The only thing about the kid that he was related to Dynamite Kid. And you get over that in about the first minute or two.
13 minutes that match went.
And it goes 13 minutes with the commercial.
Mm.
And you're thinking, well, damn, Dax is the shits. Not that this guy is good, but it looks like it gets boring. And one of the worst things that can happen to a wrestling match is when it starts getting boring, because that doesn't help the guy get over. And now I think the people are going to say, well, the only reason he got there was not because of his talent, is because of who he was related to.
What should we call him? Dynamite fetus?
Call him a piece of string, a thread, or something.
The Dynamite toddler.
How old is the kid?
I couldn't find his age. I'm guessing 21 or something like that.
And he's not very tall.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, Dax Harwood's like 5'8", probably tops, and he dwarfed Dynamite fetus out, but then had a 13-minute competitive match, which is exactly the point I wanted to bring to you. It's like, it doesn't fit the story. I mean, FTR are meant to be a world tag team, champion.
Why do you think that match even happened?
Well, they're in Vancouver, British Columbia. So a favour, I suggest, was called, and because they were in Canada, it seemed like probably the best time to try them out. But yeah.
And it was on what show?
Collision.
You know, when I was with WWE, they would put matches like that on in the first part of the night and not record. They'd record them, but they wouldn't show them back.
The dark match.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'd put him out there and see what he could do. That was exactly what a dark match should do. But yet they're showing it back on TV. It doesn't do anything for Harwood. He drug along a guy that he should have beat 11 minutes earlier. And I mean, they can do what they want to do, but that's not doing the TV show any favors.
Very quickly, we'll mention this. So we talked about it last week with Eddie Kingston. He suffered a knee injury. We watched the video. He was suplexed off the ring apron, and his leg fully hit.
He broke his leg.
And worse, he broke his leg, and he tore his ACL, and he tore his meniscus. He will need surgery. He will need surgery. He will be out for
a year.
Pretty up to a year. I mean, here's the thing, as the resident expert of ACL tears, is the first thing that you need to do. The problem with an ACL tear is partially the ACL tear as well. You've got you can't stand up straight you can't put pressure on it really, unless you're incredibly well muscled in the leg department like a rugby player or something. But the fact is that as soon as you stop moving your leg, your muscles atrophy immediately. And when I did mine, I didn't do anything with my leg for a week. And it's been 2 years later, or not far gone from 2 years later, and my muscles are still weak in that leg. So 1 week of not moving on that leg, and I didn't break my leg. Eddie Kingston has broken his leg. So, I mean, that's going to be a huge, a very, very tough road to recovery to get him back to where he's standing and walking, quite frankly. He'll get there.
Okay, I'm watching it, and he took what we're talking about, folks, is Eddie Kingston took a back suplex. The guy was going to suplex him, but they were so close to the railing. So when he took him over, the leg hit about 3/4 of the way up on the thigh, on the calf muscle, and he broke his leg. Plus, it hurts like hell. But I mean, I watched the guy, he looked back and he saw where it was, but he went and did it anyway.
Do you know what I think went wrong? I mean, a lot of things. But I can't remember his name, the guy who suplexed him. I've forgotten it by now. He was trying to suplex himself through the table at the same time. And that's probably why he ended up going a lot further out than he should have done. Whereas if he just suplexed Eddie Kingston into the table and then he stayed on the ring apron, it would have made more sense because he wouldn't have suplexed himself onto the floor. But two, then Eddie Kingston wouldn't have overshot Eddie, and then he wouldn't have landed on the guardrail.
Well, they were on the floor when they did the suplex.
No.
Yes.
They were on the ring apron.
I don't think so.
I promise you, they were on the ring apron. There were no ropes. You remember that?
No ropes. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and then they balanced the table between the ring apron and the guardrail.
All right, I'll take your word on it.
Yeah. Anyway,
but I do know I saw the leg hit. That's it. He may be through wrestling.
That's what I was going to ask. He's 42 now. He was about done when he joined AEW. So, I mean, he'd been on the indies for years and years, never really got anywhere. He was legitimately about to retire. He was even going to sell his boots. And then he got a shot with AEW through, I don't know, Cody Rhodes or whoever. And then he finally got a taste of stardom and success on a bigger scale. And he's having his best run ever. And now this happens. Is he just going to give up?
Well, he may not be able to do it, period. Physically, he may not be able to do it. Because like you said, how long did it take for your muscles to start atrophying?
Immediately. So if you can't work out your muscles...
He's out for a year.
Yeah. If you can't work out your muscles with a broken leg, I mean, they give you really basic exercises, just tensing your leg, eventually putting more weight on it, that kind of thing. But if you've got a broken leg, you can't do it. So that's going to be, he's got like the skinniest legs of any wrestler I've ever seen. That's why he wears baggy trousers. But still, that's very hard to come back from if you haven't broken your leg.
I think he's done. See, I met Eddie a long time ago when I was in TNA. But his strongest part of his whole thing is the way is his talking. He is a great talker. And his work matches his interview. So, but it doesn't matter now. Now he's hurt. And I hope he's okay. And I hope he can continue. But how old is he now? 46?
No, he's only 42. I mean, the 50s to the 30 these days. There's so many 50-year-old wrestlers out there still doing it. So, I mean, he's still got time in his hands. But it'll be a tough injury to come back from.
Oh, it will be a tough injury. Well, I wish him the best. Eddie, I like him. Good guy.
We have 3 more subjects to cover, including one that is quite near to Dutch's heart. You emailed me about a week ago, and it was about expenses in 1980 that I'd like to run through at the end. But we've got 2 more bits of AEW stuff to talk about. Last week, you talked about various things with AEW, what's wrong with AEW. I mean, we talk about it quite a lot on this show, quite frankly. But one of the things you said was you didn't like the commentary, or some of the commentary, with AEW. So... I imagine we're fairly aligned with this. You also watched Dynamite Kid 2 Wrestle on Collision, so you've had an earful of Nigel McGuinness as well. Nigel McGuinness as well from that one. So I'm going to give you a list of the
commentators.
Of commentators. You can tell me what you think about them. You can put them in a ranking list if you want. I'll even put a little number. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the first one is, I've never heard of Bobby Cruise. I may have listened to him.
I've heard of him, but I've never heard him.
So we can sort of...
but first of all, I don't like the name. So no? put him at 6.
All right, then. Oh, so we've got 1 at 7. So we've got a 7th gap. And the next one...
Put him at 6. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Excalibur, the guy with the mask.
Okay, I'm listening to Excalibur. And he just like a regular announcer. And then they show the announcers, he's sitting there with a mask on. And I'm saying, wait a minute. But you can't tell. And what happens to AEW? They have sometimes, I've seen as many as 5 commentators out there at one time, all sitting at the table. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Excalibur. He's pretty good at what he does, but he doesn't make me, as a fan, he doesn't make me want to watch it.
Is it the presentation that's just an issue?
Because he never explain.
Well, he never shuts up. He never explains why he's wearing a mask.
Well, he don't explain what he's talking about either. It's just the AEW commentators. It's like they're fighting to get their stuff in. So put Excalibur put him at 5.
Okay, Excalibur's 5. Ian Riccaboni.
Never heard him.
Okay, we'll put him at 7. Right, now, I know you've heard of all these 4. Jim Ross. But keep in mind, this is 2024 Jim Ross.
I would still put him out there just for the voice. Because his voice, when you hear it, you wouldn't be watching AEW unless you've been broken in by WWE or WWF. And that's the voice you associate with the big boys, the WWE or WWF. And I would put him out there. I would pick him probably as number 1.
Oh, really?
Even though he's limited.
With Jim, what they did was, I think for what, maybe it was one of the last big shows or the last pay-per-view, I can't remember. They only brought him out for the main event to call it. So do you think he's someone who should just be for the special matches? Do you think he should have a full show where he's the lead?
He just had surgery too, not too long ago.
Yeah.
That may be a result of that. But I've heard him for years and years and years. And when I ran into him, he was doing commentary for Mid-South down in Shreveport, Louisiana. And that's where I first met him.
Now, Jim Ross has taken the number 1 spot. The other 3, 2 of them you've not heard of, have taken the bottom 3 spots. So we've got 2, 3, and 4 left. And we have Nigel McGuinness, Taz, and Tony Schiavone. So, firstly, Nigel McGuinness. The English fella, he was actually commentating the Dynamite Fetuses match before that we talked about.
I liked him because I think I like to hear a English accent out there for some reason, because they seem to be more knowledgeable and they seem to be more smarter than Americans.
Present company excluded, of course.
But I kind of like him, so I would put him probably at number 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Taz.
Taz is a lot like Excalibur. I think I would put him 4. And I would put Schiavone number 2.
Why? It's not a fair question, but why Jim Ross over Schiavone?
Well, they could be reversed. Let's say yes, that's a good point. They are reversible because Schiavone can do more because he's younger, and Jim is just burnt out, basically burnt out, and but he still has that voice. And when he says something, you listen to him. And one thing I like about Jim really won't take one side too strongly. He will take a side, but he'll give a reason why he's doing what he's doing. And it makes sense, but I really like Jim. So we'll make Tony number 1 and Jim number 2.
Do you know, this is just nothing. It just brought it to my mind talking about commentators. I don't know if I saw it on Facebook or I saw it on something else, but there was a photo of Bob Caudle recently. He'll be 94 this year, and apparently he's still doing well, which is nice to hear.
Good guy. Great guy. I did commentary with him at Smoky Mountain for about 2 years and never had a crossword with him ever. He was always great to work with. He put up with my bull crap. And he's not too much of a, like a funny guy, but he would listen to me and he would just say, Dutch, you just, I don't understand you sometimes. But we never got into it. And he was very, very good at what he did, especially considering the time period.
Now, one more thing about AEW, then we're going to get onto the expenses list, and then we will shut down this podcast. But Nick Wayne thoughts. So, Nick Wayne, I think they're still billing him as 18 years old. I think he might be a tiny bit older than that. But very young Nick Wayne goes against AEW champion Swerve Strickland, AEW's Dynamite yesterday as we record this. You watched the last few minutes of the match, and your thoughts on Nick Wayne, really?
It's a mismatch. Isn't Swerve your champion?
Yes.
And he's going to have, how long did he go with this 160-pound guy? Well, him and Billington were about the same size. Mm-hmm. But they were looking like doing all kind of moves, and I thought this was to get Swerve over. If you're going to get him over, get him over. Don't let him go out there and actually bring his worth down. And I'm not saying nothing about the other kid. But I'm saying if I'm a fan looking at it, Swerve is going to be he's a champion or is going against some strong challenger. And all of a sudden this the skinny kid comes in and he's holding his own with him. How long did the match go?
9 minutes. I just looked it up. Nick Wayne is still 18, by the way.
Okay. Well, it was another mismatch. And I think that the people left in droves.
I'd be interested to find out what happened with that. Yeah, so this is a common theme with AEW as well, is that size apparently means nothing. World champion means nothing. Everybody has to work 50-50 with everybody else.
Is that a rule?
I mean, that's sort of been borne out, really, hasn't it? I mean, from the two matches we saw.
Well, you can't take it, say it's a 9-minute match. James, me and you are going to have a match, and whoever's giving us who's going over. Okay, James, you're going to take it on Dutch, and we need about 9 minutes. Well, hell, you just can't beat me up for 9 minutes. I got to get some heat on you, and you got to have the big comeback, and boom, 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 and then we go home. But that was too long for Swerve. Way, way too long. And I don't think it helped the Wayne kid. And it kind of hurt Swerve. When I say hurt, it's not going to hurt him that much, but still, you can tell who put that match together that, it's like a 50-50 deal. But that's not what wrestling is. Okay, Bron Brekker, he beat that kid we were talking about earlier. He could have beat him in like the first 30 seconds, couldn't he? But no, they drug it out. They got at least 2 minutes at him because Bron Brekker was arguing with the referee and then ends up hitting him with a chair or something. But at least that's more interesting than what Swerve and this other kid did.
Yeah. What do you tell Tony? I mean, really? I mean, is it just a match that never should have happened in the first place? Or should it have just gone 2 minutes? Or
okay, it was the main event of the show, right?
Well, it was the world champion. It was the world championship. It didn't go on last though, because what went on last was Bryan Danielson versus Satnam Singh, that 7'4" Indian giant. This was just in the middle of the show.
9 minutes in the middle of the show.
World championship match.
People left in droves. I want you to look up that segment and see what it did.
It happens after we go off the air, like a couple of hours afterwards, but I'd be very interested to know about that. We'll find it out, and if it's not edited too soon, we'll put the little number at the bottom of here. Chris, sort that out. Right, okay then. Dutch Mantell's expenses list. We wanted to end on this. You sent me an email last week, and I didn't put it. I didn't put it in the script, or maybe even did. I forget. But we just had so much to talk about, we couldn't get to it. But you said your expenses list in 1980. So, do you remember what you wrote, or do you want me to read out what you said?
I remember kind of what I wrote.
So, do you want me to go through?
No, go ahead, read it.
Okay, so it says $500 in 1980 is equal to just about $1,900 in today's rates. There's actually some people today not making $500 a week. Gas at the time, we're talking 1980, was 98 cents a gallon. My rent was $150 a month. My car payment was $130 a month for a new car. A round-trip air ticket from Atlanta to San Juan in first class was $225. New Buick Regals listed for $5,100. The minimum wage was $3.10 an hour. So in my head, I'm calculating what was my minimum monthly payments for rents, utilities, plus food, and my car payment came out to like $150 per week. $500 for one night paid my bills for the month. Damn, where did those days go?
Yep. Where'd they go? Well, I'll tell you where they went, because everything now is just so expensive. Everything is expensive. You know, if people making the minimum wage now cannot make it. And I don't got to tell, these people know what I'm talking about that are listening to me. You know, everything goes up and up and up and up. And that's what's going to happen. We got a presidential election coming up, and that's going to have a lot to do with it. So we'll see where it leads. But things like in 1980, 1979. So imagine that big week I told you about I had in Puerto Rico was unbelievable. I was making more than the guys in New York City were making. So doing that little run. But I used to have an apartment, like I said, $150 with all utilities included. And what else did I have? Oh, I had to have a phone. Phone was like $15 a month. That's what it was. The only thing that cost you a lot of money on the phone is long distance. But $500 a week, $600 a week, you know, paid my expenses for a month. So,
how much did a 6-pack of beer cost you back in the day?
I forgot, not much. $1.75 maybe. $2 maybe.
What did you drink? Specifically, what brand?
Well, I drank Miller Lite. I drank that. But then I found a beer from Australia called Foster's.
Oh, jeez.
You don't like Foster's?
Disgusting. Yeah. It's cooking lager.
It was good. Listen, I'm not a beer aficionado, but I just liked it because they had the bigger cans. You get this was like a 24-ounce can, and I enjoyed Foster's. I really did.
A couple of other things I was going to ask you. So around 1980, let's say I don't even know if you were driving or you were always the passenger at this point, but how much would you charge for trans?
I'm trying to remember. I think it's 4 cents a mile. It was that low, really.
Yeah. So let's say you had three people in your car.
From Nashville to Louisville and back was $12 is what it was. To Memphis and back was like $16, something like that. So, and you say, what'd you say? Say there's 3 people in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have met guys on the road, and they drove every day because part of their driving is they would just say, "Hey guys, if you want to ride, you can go with me." And he'd fill his car up, and whatever he made, he had no road expenses. And he'd actually make money. I was in Tampa. Tampa to Miami, he'd fill it up. And I think that was like $16 too. So times 3, what is 16 times 3? 42?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, 48.
Okay. What is wrong with my camera?
It keeps dying. I don't understand what's going on.
It's just too much.
Well, while you sort your camera, what about, and I know it's going to depend heavily, the camera's in a weird place now.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody, you're just going to have to deal with the camera. Hotels, on average.
Oh. They were like $25 a night.
Split between how many? 2, 3?
Depends on how much money you had. I've seen as much as 4 guys in a room built for 2. And I've seen sometimes 5 guys in there. But we stayed at the Days Inn, $8 Inn, or the $6 Inn. And I have stayed in some places called the $4 Inn, which some of the amenities were lowered, like they had no TV that worked. And Randy Savage loved those cheap motels, because him and Lanny were 2 of the cheapest bastards I've ever seen. Cheap. Mm-hmm. So I rode with Savage one time, and I said, usually we break it down to an even dollar number. I rode with him one time, and I said, what owe you? And he said, I forgot what it was. He said $8.32. He had it down to the mile. But because their dad, Angelo, taught him that. Because he was always investing in the stock market. He always used to say, he said, listen, guys, he said, if you watch your dimes or nickels and dimes, the dollars take care of themselves, which is right. So what he was saying is don't throw your money away. Save it. And Savage saved everything. There you go.
What about, okay, 2 different questions. Food in general, but also, what about people who used to like make or have their wives make sandwiches for the road? How much would they charge as well?
What do you mean?
I thought certain wrestlers would get themselves or their wives would make a load of sandwiches and they would sell the sandwiches to the boys.
I never heard that.
Oh, no?
No.
Okay, well, general food bills then for the week, because you're eating out every single day.
Oh, cheap. Hot dog, 75 cents. A hamburger, $1.25, $1.50. Going to Memphis, you can stop and eat for $5. And if you stopped at a all you can eat, it's like $4.95, drink included.
Hey, did they ban wrestlers at certain all you can eat places?
Oh, they have. Because they would go in there and it'd just be like gluttons. Just eat and eat and eat and eat. So.
One more thing about finances I'm interested in is how do you work about declaring your earnings to the tax man? Because
you get a.
That's interesting in itself.
I guess you get a W-2, and you just put all your miles added up. But see, the wrestlers, it's supposed to be if you take your car. And see, I forgot what you got for mile. You got more than what you actually paid in credit. So I forgot how the Memphis thing worked, but I never ended up paying a lot of tax because I had so many write-offs. I did pay. I paid more on Social Security than anything else, but I never. People hated to see the tax man come around.
Mm. Did you have fistfuls of receipts all the time? No,
I didn't. Oh, I've been called into the IRS office.
Oh, really?
And they finally said I owed them $40,000. I said, all right. But the first time I owed them like $20,000. So I learned something. I didn't pay them because business got so bad. I didn't pay them. And 3 years went by and they didn't collect. Plus I had moved. I think I moved from Nashville to Birmingham, Alabama, which sends me into another tax office. And by the time they get it, they don't start looking at it after maybe 6, 8 months. And by the time they're looking at it, by the time they get around to trying to do anything with me, I'd move back to Nashville. So now it's got to go back to Nashville again. So much time went by that they just wrote it off because they got X number of time to move on this account, and they didn't move quick enough. And so they just canceled it.
Well, you never paid a penny.
Well, I didn't pay that one. Oh, they just lumped the fines on in with what I had to pay. The second time when I was with WWE, I did have to dig down, and this broke my heart. I had to come up with like 35 grand cash.
Ooh.
Yeah. But hey, I went down there, settled up with them. I said, here we go. You know, when you're sitting there and there's 35 grand laying there and you said, oh my God, I want to shoot myself, which I really didn't, but that's a lot of money just to hand over in one time.
Hmm.
And I don't think I really owed that money, but I'm not very good at accounting, as you can tell.
No, it sounds like you sort of looked out of not having to pay some of it just purely because you just moved, so you probably just quit so many times and went back and forth.
Well, I did that, and they wrote the first one off.
On that note, I think we're going to close down this podcast now. So everybody, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you again on Tuesday for Ask Dutch Anything. Questions for dutch@gmail.com if you're interested to send in a question for the crafty veteran himself. But for now, thank you very much for watching. And Dutch,
The question is, did Ric Flair watch this?
He watches every other one, apparently. He hunts down criticism and then moans about it.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
Okay. Oh, that's all right. He'll watch it himself.
Yeah, he can watch it, and then he'll be after you. Mm. What if he walked up to you and punched you, knocked you down, and put the figure 4 on you? Well, what would you do?
Well, I mean, I just walk off.
You got a bad leg anyway.
I can run off. There'd be about 30 seconds between him rearing his fist back and then actually throwing it forward. So I just walk off, make myself a drink. Did you see him try and do chops in AEW? He was just like, oh, like that. So stop it, Rick.
It's embarrassing. It really is. He embarrassed himself. But now you don't ever see him anymore, do you?
No. He's still on. I'm sure he's still on retainer. He's
do they
he's
still
an ambassador.
do what did ambassador to who?
AEW. He's an ambassador to AEW.
What's that mean?
Well, it means they pay him to stay home.
He's an ambassador to He's an ambassador to AEW?
For AEW.
For AEW.
Yeah.
So what was that drink he brought in? What was it?
Oh, Woo Energy. Have you still got some of those Woo Energy cans, or did you throw them away?
I may have a couple around here.
No.
They're not that bad. So I thought they would be just horrible, but they're not. So
I mean, they should put that on their website. Woo Energy, quote, not that bad. Dutch Mantell.
Hey, that might be a good selling point. Or, yeah.
We should do that for this podcast. Not that bad.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk to our attorney first.
Yes, absolutely.
See if we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot what I was going to tell you. Oh, another bit of news is, who is the guy that's leaving AEW and he's the announcer?
Oh, Mark Henry.
Mark Henry.
Well, he's an interviewer for Rampage. Okay. I actually skipped that bit of news just because we didn't really have time to get to it. Did you want to talk about it?
No, I don't know. You think he'll stay?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we'll find out because I think his contract's up in like a week. So I'll save that news and we'll refer to it again next week. And then we'll see if he stays and we see if he doesn't. But for now, we'll see you again on Tuesday.
Anybody wants to talk to me, Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's @gmail.com. So see you next week. We the people.